The meeting to order. Please take a seat if you haven't done so already. Thank you all for being here and welcome. Welcome to the Spring General Faculty Meeting of 2013. We're delighted to see all of you here. We will proceed with the agenda. I'm going to withhold my remarks for later, so I'm going directly to item 2, which is the approval of minutes. Please, may I have a motion to approve the minutes? I hear a so moved. Did you catch who said it? I think it was Matt. All right. Second? Second. Any discussion? Any correction? Any objection to calling the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Abstentions? Carried. Thank you. We now recognize our retirees from the faculty, and we have 2 today. The first one, Dr. Jonathan Goldstein. Jonathan, please rise. Where are you, Jonathan? There. Oh, you shouldn't be at the back, Jonathan. Jonathan is retiring as Professor of History after 32 years. Thank you, Jonathan, for all your service to West Point. Miss Gloria Kittle, retiring after 11 years. Is Gloria over here? Let us recognize her in absentia. Gloria is retiring as a lecturer in the Department of Mathematics. Thank you both for your service to West Georgia. Now we come to the Faculty and Staff Service Awards. Dr. Bill Estes, Vice President for University Advancement, please come forward and guide us through this.
Thank you, Dr. Sethna. For those of you who are curious, I shook Michael Horvath's hand. Whatever it is, he's catching. Don't shake his hand. The awarding of pins in recognition of service to the university has been a highlight in this closing faculty meeting for many years, and we want to continue to do that, of course. The awards are made possible by contributions that many of you make to the University of West Georgia Foundation for this purpose. We want you to know in advance how much we appreciate your philanthropy and your support. The employees are recognized for 10 up to 40 years of service in 5-year increments. I'm going to ask my assistant Tiffany down here to lead the 10-year recipients up to the stage now. We'll be recognizing all of the recipients. There are some who can't attend, but we'll be calling their names anyway. So if you have been here 10 years, please step forward. 10 to 14 years. Let me begin with the names. Adrian Austin, who's not attending. Heidi Marie Banford. James C. Boyd. Marjorie Ann Boykin, not attending. Chad Davidson. Michael W. Denis. David Thomas Driver. Wanda M. Favors. Gregory A. Frazier and Kathy Harris, not attending. Sunil I. Hazari. Ernest Henderson. Don't think I saw Ernie earlier. Jill Hendricks. Susan R. Holland. Kimberly L. Ingram. Angela S. Nsenga. Not attending. Gladys Jane McLean. Timothy J. McWhorter. Jerry L. Moore. Sheila B. Norton. Elsa V. Pena. Sonia J. Pitts. John Ponder. Bradley J. Prince. John D. Rossler. Timothy L. Schroyer. Tuan Kim Vu. Li Yang. Dwayne A. Yoder, who's not attending. Let's have a round of applause for all our colleagues. And I'd like to ask our 15-year recipients to please come to the stage. Tamarsha L. Barnes. William R. Beavers. Ronald W. Best. I believe he's here today. John S. Bluell. John T. Blair, also not attending. Tim C. Cannon. John D. Congleton. Deanie L. Corley. Thomas F. Cox. Tracy L. Denning. James J. Dillon. Janet Donahoe and Sharmista Dutt are not attending. Amanda F. Emery. Cynthia D. Epps. Vincent Gibson. Janet P. Gubbins. Brandy L. James. Nancy J. Lott. Ann E. McClary. Faye S. McIntyre. Carrie B. McWhorter. Mary Ann Myers. Kehan J. Nari, not attending. Denise M. Overfield. Mike H. Pearson. Nancy L. Pinco. Michael W. Richardson. Lawrence I. Shore. Madhvi Sethna. Her name sounds familiar. Mardell Shoemake. Mary Beth Sloan. Marjorie M. Snipes. Bridget A. Stewart. Scott R. Sykes. Hope E. Udamdan. Dawn West. And Alexandra C. Young. We congratulate our 15-year colleagues. Now would the 20-year employees please come to the platform. Tina Bennett. Peggy L. Boston. Stanley M. Karras. Helen M. Chambers. Matthew N. Clay. Rodney H. Gibbs. Anthony B. Gillespie. Price B. Hall. Laura E. Harper. Kimberly Lawrence Jordan. Catherine M. McWhorter. Robert C. Morris. Patricia D. Pinker. Stacy L. Rowland. Terry M. Rubino. We have three more who are not here. Robert M. Sanders. Oh, I was there. Yes. I'm sorry. Ricky L. West. Garth D. Wilson. Let's have a round of applause for this time. Now would our 25-year employees please come forward. Lisa P. Crafton, Randy J. Hendricks, Tina B. Johnson. Shelley R. Parker. Irma D. Shooks. Denise D. Tarpley. Patricia A. Wells is not attending. Kimberly A. Willingham. Let's give our 25-year employees another hand. Now, if our 30-year employees would please come forward. They've worked hard enough to deserve a rest, but we'll call their name anyway. Deborah B. North, John T. Brown, Sylvia E. Short. In absentia, let's give them a round of applause. There are 3 35-year employees. If they would come forward. Julian S. Harris, Jr. John Adrian L. Rice. Karen H. Smith. Let's give one more round of applause to all of our honorees.
Thank you, Dr. Estes. It's now my pleasure to call Dr. Jeff Johnson, Chair of the Faculty Senate, up here for the business of the Faculty Senate and Faculty Handbook revisions, items 5 and 6. Jeff, please come forward.
Thank you, Dr. Sethna. We have a couple of things that we need to vote on to approve to move forward in terms of handbook revisions and or the vision, mission, and goal statements. So the first of those is the mission, vision, and goal statement. So we have two things that we need to do on that today. First, we need to approve those as the official university mission, vision, and goal statement, and then have another vote to move those forward for Board of Regents approval. So we will take the first one on its own. These were all sent out to you earlier. So hopefully everyone has taken a look at those. So the motion is already on the floor coming from the Faculty Senate, so we do not need a motion and a second. So I will just call for any comments, any discussion on that individual motion. Do you have any discussion, any objection to calling the final question? All right, all those in favor of approval of the mission, vision, and goal statement signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that stands approved. And basically, any opposition to calling the question on then moving that forward for Board of Regents approval? All right, hearing no opposition, same question. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that stands approved as well. So the second item 6 on the agenda is the faculty handbook revisions. We basically have 3 of those. 2 are together, 1 is separate. The first one of those is basically removal of the self-evaluation checklist. That is the faculty self-evaluation checklist. That is not the self-reflections. It is just a checklist form that many of the faculty don't even know exist until they actually go up for promotion and tenure. So any opposition to or any discussion on that individual motion? Any opposition to calling the question on that one? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries as well. The last 2 are basically together, and these are just general changes to the Dean's evaluation instrument. The major revisions on that are basically allowing the committee to kind of summarize the results so that not all individual comments necessarily need to be included in the actual report, and then basically changing the listing from one being a low score or a high score to a low score and vice versa. So any opposition to or any discussion on those individual items? All right, any opposition to calling the final question on those? All right, all those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries as well. The only other item of business from the Senate is the election of the General Faculty Secretary, which also serves as the Executive Secretary of the Faculty Senate. We do have one nominee, Shelley Smith, who was nominated on the floor of the Senate. She is on the ballot, but we need to have one final call for nominations there, just in case there is any from the floor of this body. So are there any other nominations for that office? All right, if you have not voted, please do so, both for the general election secretary and executive secretary, and the appeals committee as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Item 7 is the SACS and QEP update by John Anderson, Deputy Provost. When John comes up, I'll wait to speak up.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sethna. This is an incredibly exciting opportunity to talk about SACS. First, let me convince you that SACS is important. And that may take 20 minutes, but I'll just spend 3. First, SACS requires us to do a lot of things that we probably wouldn't do otherwise, and some of them are good. I'll leave that one there. Next, it's important for us to be accredited by SACS because all our credits and degrees need to be recognized in external markets. That only can happen if we are accredited by a regional accrediting body, and the only one that exists between Virginia and Texas is SACS. It is important. Next, it allows our students to have access to Title IV financial aid funding. None of those things can happen if we don't maintain our accreditation. Let me just tell you how this process works, and that is, SACS is accredited itself by the Federal Department of Education. The way the whole system of higher education works on the financial side is that the federal government sets laws. From there, the U.S. Department of Education interprets those laws. They then turn them over to SACS, who interprets the interpretation of the laws. Then our peers set up a whole set of other standards that SACS also implements. And then they evaluate institutions like us as we work under the University System of Georgia. So that is the process. And in order for us to maintain those first 3 things, we have to make sure that we stay in SACS good graces and that the good graces of our peer institutions. I will say over the last decade or so, the front part of this arrow, the federal government has changed pretty substantially what they require of regional accrediting bodies and of institutions. So as we've tried to prepare for this visit, we are in the class of 2014 and finishing what would be our self-study year. As we've tried to prepare for this, it has felt at times like we were kind of at the end of the tail. And with a few of the standards, particularly in distance education and how we grant credit and what ends up on a transcript, it's felt a little more like this. But in the end, we have a process in place that has allowed us to be as prepared as we possibly can be. We started this process in 2010. And at that time, we outlined everything that we would need to do to complete our compliance certificate and to complete a quality enhancement plan that outlines our best efforts to improve some area of student learning over the next 5 to 7 years. We laid that out in the Gantt chart, and this is from a presentation that was given that fall of 2010 in a faculty meeting. Since then, we've updated each faculty meetings, and our progress has looked kind of like this. So we've kind of flown over the last 3 years, and here is where we are now. We're at the end of this process. You'll see that we've made good progress. So thanks to all of you for your help in that effort, and it's been a big one. There's been a lot of people across campus involved. You'll also see, let me point out, we've got 3 outlier pieces that we need to clean up. These are places that we need to finish pretty quickly, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. Let me review these. Our next steps are to make sure that the QEP is completely drafted and the final version is passed by the Faculty Senate. The Faculty Senate has adopted the learning outcome and operational outcomes. They then updated those, and so we've got all that stuff in place. It's been through the Faculty Senate. The large body of work relative to the Quality Enhancement Plan has been done by the Strategic Planning Committee of the Faculty Senate. They have a lot of other work to do, and so at their recommendation, working with the administration, we are going to form a standing administrative QEP committee that will see this through the next 5 to 7 years as it's finalized and implemented. So we're going to get that committee in place, and the final version of the QEP should be presented to the Faculty Senate for adoption no later than November. So that's the next thing we need to complete. Second, each one of our statements of compliance have been reviewed, have been written. We've got all those other than a few tweaks SACS has to make in terms of their principles, which we're working on right now. We've got all of them completed. Almost all of them have been reviewed by staff on campus, by administrators, by faculty, and by Senate committee. And so all of our statements should be pretty thorough and pretty detailed, and they've had lots of eyes on them. And those who are aware or need to be aware of what they say should be aware of it by now, or will be over the next few months. We need to bring that compliance certificate to closure. And the third thing is we need to finish and finalize the assessment data collection and what data we need to collect on faculty. Many of you are engaged in that and appreciate your efforts. We need to make sure that's all brought to closure. And if you have any questions about that, you're welcome to call me, but your associate dean is, I'm sure, aware of exactly what we need. Next, key dates. Our compliance certificate is due September 10th. It's being built online. We'll send them a link for that then. It's all reviewed off-site sometime in October or November. We send in our final QEP in January or February. The on-site visit team will be here just under a year from now. It's April 1st through the 4th of 2014. And then at the December meeting, they'll make a final decision on our reaffirmation status. If you have any more questions, or I'm sure you want a lot more information about this, head to the SACS or the QEP website, which are posted there. Thank you very much.
Dr. Anderson, thank you very much. You are right, it is incredibly interesting and fascinating, but we have to, this is something that we need to do, and of course we are better at the end of the process. Our next item, Dr. Horvath will lead us in the presentation of the UWG Regents Teaching Excellence Awards. Dr. Horvath, Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs.
Thank you, Dr. Sethna. It's my distinct pleasure today to present the fiscal year 14 Regents Teaching Excellence Awards. And today, 4 awards will be given. The first is Scholarship of Teaching and Learning. The second is Online Teaching. The third is Individual Faculty Teaching. And the fourth is Program Teaching. First of all, I would like to thank the 4 faculty members who served as judges for the University of West Georgia Regents Teaching Awards this year. David Bolt from Economics, Rebecca Harrison from English, Sal Peralta from Political Science, and Scott Sykes from Mathematics. And let's give these people a hand, please. And on to the awards, and if the recipients will ascend the stage as I talk about them, we'll hand out the awards. The Scholarship of Teaching and Learning Award goes to James Dillon in psychology. Jim Dillon is trained as a child psychologist in the tradition of Montessori, Piaget, and Dewey. He knows that actively engaged students learn better than students who passively listen to lectures. This knowledge was driven home when he began teaching the psychology capstone course 5 years ago. Jim was discouraged when students could see neither rhyme nor reason for their college coursework. They remembered shards of knowledge, and often erroneous shards at that. I'm not sure that's exactly a geological or archaeological term, but erroneous shards it is. They could not discuss psychological ideas intelligently, nor apply what they learned in psychology to public policy, social, or philosophical issues. Many of his students, he found, were disappointed and disillusioned with their college education. These discoveries, while disheartening, led Jim to ask big questions. How can learning in the core curriculum be long-lasting? What should undergraduate psychology majors know and be able to do? How can faculty mentor and advise psychology majors meaningfully? These questions led to large-scale data collection. The department used this information to revise the psychology curriculum, improve classroom teaching, and offer connected courses that sequentially build on one another. Jim Dillon's students now engage in role-play applications, they discuss course material in seminars, and they write, and they retain. Jim's search to answer this question How can I tell whether my students have learned? Led him on a journey of self-discovery with significant benefits for his students. Please join me in congratulating James Dillon on being selected for the Regents Scholarship for Teaching and Learning. Our second award is the Online Teaching Award. Kimberly Hewitt, School Library, Media, and Instructional Technology, is the recipient of this award. Prompted by a colleague, Kim Hewitt asks herself, how do I make sure that my online classes have soul? Her answer? There is no easy answer. However, Kim acknowledges her responsibility to explore the potential of the online format for the sake of our students. Kimberly approaches online teaching very strategically. Her goal, her purpose, is achieved when her K-12 pre-service education students find meaning and relevance in the course content, and when they transfer that knowledge and those skills into their own K-12 classrooms. Kim connects with her online students. Get that, connects? Her feedback arrives in the form of text, audio, and even video. To keep the content fresh with current events, she remakes introductory videos for all the learning modules each semester. At times, she may use video walkthrough feedback to show an individual student how to improve his or her work. Truly, one might even label Kim Hewitt as the Camtasia Queen. Because Kimberly teaches instructional technology, she constantly thinks about how to improve the learning experiences of her online students. The fact that she models best practices in online teaching is a plus for her pre-service teachers because their world increasingly uses online technologies to improve student learning. Kim's West Georgia colleagues also appreciate her attention to best practices. They look to her to find ways to tap into that soul that transforms all effective classroom learning, whether it is virtual or face-to-face. Please join me in congratulating Kimberly Hewitt on being selected for the Regents Online Teaching Award. Our third award is the Individual Teaching Award, and Mark Parrish, Counselor Education and College Student Affairs, is the recipient of that award. At the end of each semester, Mark Parrish asks his students and himself this question: did we grow professionally, and did we have fun? This is his ultimate measure that the learning experience has been effective. Mark teaches adult learners, graduate students, in the Counselor Education program. His approach to teaching leans heavily on his cognitive behavioral counseling orientation, as well as his years of clinical and academic counseling practice. This means that he takes students on a personal journey to grow as critical thinkers. Because Mark is convinced that meaningful learning happens when both the student and teacher are mutually invested in the process, he leads his students through invitation, not by mandate, in a collaborative process of discovery, adventure, experimentation, and experiential learning. This works. Mark's students are successful professionals who make a difference in the lives of their clients and our community. Please join me in recognizing Mark Parrish and being selected for the Regents Teaching Excellence Award for an individual faculty member. Our final award is the Program Teaching Award, and the recipient of this is the Theater Program. West Georgia's theater majors thrive in the program's experiential learning model known as the UWG Theater Company. Early on, students find themselves immersed in rehearsals, props and costume builds, light hangings, playwriting, and research. From the first day on campus, each new student is paired with a buddy, that is a junior or senior in the program, who helps the new major negotiate classes, auditions, production assignments, and adjustment to college life. Then it's not unusual for a faculty mentor to spend over 5 hours nightly in a darkened theater with a student designer, technician, stage manager, actor, and/or director. The faculty link continuous program improvement to their work with outside organizations, such as the Kennedy Center College Theater Festival and professional theaters in the Atlanta area. Continuous program assessment, reflection, and revisions to the curriculum have paid off for their students because the success stories of their graduates are many. For example, graduates have earned MFAs in acting and scenography. One combined her theater training with graduate work in psychology, and now she is a professional drama therapist. Numerous others are co-founders and artistic directors of theater companies. Notably, a current senior, Jared LeClaire, was the only undergraduate in the nation to be honored for scene design, at a national conference last month. Please join me in congratulating the theater program and being selected for the Regents Teaching Excellence Award for a program.
We will now go directly to the next item, the provost remark. Dr. Horvath, please come back.
Thank you, Dr. Sethna. In 2 short years, we have gone from RPG to CCG, state appropriations that came in lump sums to dedicated initiatives, new colleges that are finding their identities, major building and remodeling, and a focus on preparing for the future. I have asked our UWG community to discuss things such as themed years, trimesters, and identity branding. Now, my first attempt at identity branding, I thought maybe we could be the problem-solving institution. And I kind of ran that up the flagpole a little bit. Nobody really saluted. And so, I still like it, but today I'd like to add a new discussion item and put this in the mix. We raise the quality of life. In the future, we will adjust to performance funding based on benchmarks that include progress toward graduation and on-time graduation. Instead of tracking only first-time, full-time freshmen, we will track all students while reaching out to our region and you in different ways. All in all, we have been through exciting times with much more excitement to come. I wasn't here 19 years ago when Dr. Sethna began his presidency, but have the distinct impression that the first 17 years of his presidency were a lot like the last 2 in terms of activity and accomplishment. On behalf of all of us in the Division of Academic Affairs, I want to say thank you for marshaling us Thank you for marshaling us to take the steps that have led us from the college down on Maple Street to the vibrant institution we now call the University of West Georgia. Dr. Sethna, congratulations, and we await your closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Horvath. Thank you, colleagues. I've got my closing remarks somewhere, but give me a moment. This indeed is an a significant day in my life. I still recollect the first faculty meeting that took place in this room, and I'll talk about that in a moment. There's some of you who were here on that day. But let me share with you, my first broad item is to say thank you. I'm going to list a few accomplishments, and I want to make it very clear that these are not accomplishments of a president. The president doesn't teach class, the president doesn't educate the students, the president doesn't build buildings, the president doesn't do any of these things. I've written a column to the Times-Georgian, typical Beirut style. It's twice the length of the typical column, and they're still trying to figure out how they're going to accommodate me if they do, but you should see that in the next few days. It's actually an update of a column that I've written about every 5 years. Every 5 years I write this column with the same title, and it says, "Don't look at me, somebody else did it." And I start out this column essentially in the same way to say, "Don't look at me, he did it, she did it," is a way of deflecting, typically deflecting blame from one person to another. I too point a finger away from me when I say this, but it's a finger of credit, not of blame. And I list there a lot of people and a lot of entities that made all this successful. So again, I'm not in the least bit embarrassed to put all of this in writing, as I said multiple times during my career, because I recognize that it is not the president who does these things. It is you. And for that, I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful. Let me list some of these that come to mind. From those days in 1994, as Dr. Horvath said, we've gone from a college to the State University of West Georgia, to the University of West Georgia. It's just my luck that the name that I liked, of these three names, the name I liked least was the State University of West Georgia, and I am the one who's uniquely associated with it because I'm the only president of the State University of West Georgia. There had never been one, and there will never be one, I hope, of such an institution, and that's the one I like least. But nonetheless, I've had the pleasure of being president of these three institutions, but I haven't moved my office, so as I said, it's a sort of a mixed honor with that particular phrase. But from that time, we've increased full-time equivalent enrollment by about 50%. We've increased academic building square footage and land holdings by 70%. Remember that the institution in 1994 was about 88 years old. In the last 19 years, we've increased some of these things by 70%. We have more than doubled square footage in these last 19 years. We've increased our investment in buildings and in major renovations by about $350 million. We've increased our standards, and please understand, I have to keep reminding you, and I certainly don't need any reminders myself, that this is not what the president did. It is what you did, what all of you did, and many, many people outside of this room helped us get there. We've increased our endowment 10 times, a factor of 10 times that which it was in 1994. I will tell you, it's not where it needs to be, even now. It's not a particular brag point in terms of the amount. But in academics, we've done amazing things. We've started 4 doctoral programs. We've been designated as a SACS Level 6 university, and there's no higher level. We are there in terms of quantitative measures in being classified as a Carnegie Doctoral Research University. That hasn't happened yet, probably won't happen for a few years because they are on a 5-year cycle. So around 2015, they'll reevaluate all the universities. And if they keep their criteria the same, we are already there. We've awarded the first PhD in University System of Georgia history outside of the 4 research universities. Please understand that 2 other institutions other than the 4 research universities are allowed to give the PhD, but thanks to our wonderful colleagues in psychology, we beat them both, and we have awarded the first PhD in the history of the university system. We've done many things, and all of that has been done by our faculty, our staff, our administrators, our friends, and our alumni. What then does the president do? The only thing that I will take credit for in all of these that I've listed, the only thing, is when I came first on this stage, I had a vision that West Georgia could be more than just a nice place. It was a very nice place when I came here. Let me be very clear. It had all the wonderful attributes that we love. The love of teaching, the love of students. All of that existed before I arrived on this campus. I want to be very clear on that. It was a nice place, and when I was interviewed by the chancellor in the final interview, the chancellor gave me this is an exact quote. West Georgia is a nice place, he said, that has been asleep for the last 20 years. And I resolved that no one would say the same thing at the next 20 years, and I think that's true. I think people might say, slow down, but they would not say that we've been asleep. So it was a nice place, but it had some limitations. One of the limitations was our academic standards. In 1994, and I give you quantitative data, 51% of the entering class was what we called on remedial education, which meant they were not ready for college. We taught them high school stuff to get them ready for college after they came to West Georgia College. And that's understandable if that percentage was small. When it's 51%, even the good students, and we had some great students at that time, some of the faculty here are alumni of this great institution. And this is no reflection on them, but the people sitting on either side of them weren't ready for college. You can't build a destination university when you have 51% of the class not ready for college. We changed that. We increased admission standards. You did that. We suffered an enrollment decline, so it took some courage to increase admission standards. We dipped and we came up again. And as I said, now we stand about at 50% higher FTE enrollment than we were in 1994. If we overlaid the admission standards of today of the entering class of 1994, fully 80% approximately could not be admitted. 80% of that class could not be admitted today. And yet we have grown. We have grown in size and we have grown in stature. Again, my thanks to you. So when I came here, I had this belief that West Georgia could be more than a nice place. It was a very difficult time for West Georgia when I arrived. Valdosta had been made a university a couple of years before I came here. I forget exactly when. And West Georgia was still a college. And everywhere I went, I heard the phrase, we are about as good as Valdosta, why aren't we a university? And I heard this from the community, and I heard this from our colleagues in here. And that bothered me a great deal. Not just that fact, but everyone pegged West Georgia based on Valdosta. I heard the name Valdosta more times than I heard any other single institution. Now, Valdosta is a fine place. I have nothing against Valdosta. It's a very fine place. But it is not where I decided to peg West Georgia. So I had this vision that we shouldn't be talking about Valdosta. In my first remarks on this very stage in 1994, this was September of 1994 because we were on the quarter system and the term started a little later than it does now. Mid-September, third week of September approximately of 1994, I came up on this stage and resolved that I wasn't going to mention Valdosta. Instead, I mentioned Harvard. And I said, we've competed against Harvard in debate, and I envision a future that one day we will not only beat them, but beating them will become par for the course. I envisioned a future that we would find niches of our excellence, that I wouldn't do it, you would do it, that the faculty would define niches of excellence where we could compete against the nation's best and do well on a national stage. So I had that desire. Now, as you can imagine, when I came and made these remarks, and at that time you have to understand that West Georgia had rotary phones. There was no such thing as even a touch-tone phone at that time. The rest of the country did. West Georgia did. I taught my first class it's not called semesters at that time, 1 quarter after that. And my first class was a Management Information Systems class, a computer class in the College of Business. And we had no hard disks. Now again, the country did have hard disks. If you're rusty on your history, the country knew about hard disks at that time. I didn't come here in 1955. I came here I taught this course in 1995. But I would go to the class, it was an 8 a.m. class, and I would go to the class armed with 2 floppy disks. You remember a floppy disk, try to look it up in the history books. I would open the little key, put in the floppy disk, close the key, start up the computer. It would go and go on and on and on. And then, lo and behold, I'd take out that floppy disk and put it in the next one. And that's what I had to do between 7:30 and 8 a.m. so that when the students came in at 8 a.m., the computers were ready. This was the technology that drove us at that time. And we knew that this was not the way to compete against Harvard. So when I made that speech, I actually had faculty members say to me, don't talk to me about Harvard when I have rotary phones and no hard disks. I would say that about 50% of the faculty thought I was crazy after that. The other 50% knew I was crazy. So I sometimes, let me again wake this computer up, bear with me for a moment. So sometimes when you have this crazy vision, you get lucky. And I really got lucky. September of 1994, 3rd week of September, a few weeks after that, in early November, there was a national election. And those of you who political science, I know Rob was here, will know what the November election of 1994 was. It was the first time that the Republicans took control of the US House of Representatives. And Newt Gingrich became Speaker. Now this has got nothing to do with me or my vision. As I said, I just stumbled into this and got lucky. And Newsweek had a whole issue devoted to that national election. And most of it was serious stuff, but one part of it was fun stuff. This column you see on your right was something that's called Who's In and Who's Out. And they said Barbara Streisand is in, and Pat Sajak is in and Barbara Streisand is out. And buried in this column, almost at the bottom of the page, is this. This is what they said. Harvard is out and West Georgia College is in. Notice that I'm not looking at the screen. It's November 21st, 1994, page 48. I remember that because I rubbed that page in everyone's face for a long time after that. Well, we didn't earn this one, but we earned everything else after that. You've come a long way, you've taken the institution a long way, and I'm really proud to be part of you. I've always referred to my title, my business card, my letterhead always says, has always done, since 1994, since the day I came, professor and president in that order. I'm delighted to turn over the keys of the institution to Dr. Marrero. I have spoken with him, I have met him, I have full faith in his leadership and his ability to take us to the next stage. I want you to know that. We've got a great president, and I look forward to working with him. I will miss several things on the 1st of July. I've got a lot of learning to do. I've been teaching all along, so I don't actually have to learn how to teach. I've been doing that. But I will need to learn how to teach a bigger load and the whole gamut of advising, for example. I do advising after everyone has finished with the student. I have no clue what goes into area F. I have absolutely no clue. I don't know what area C is and what area B is. I'll have to learn all of that. One of the biggest things that I will learn is, on July 1, who my friends really were. That will be quite a learning experience. Who will return my calls on July 1? I will miss several things. I won't miss breakfast meetings in Atlanta at 7 a.m. It's part of my job today, and hopefully will not be part of my job on July 1. That I will not miss. I've never been particularly fond of great trappings. I should actually have guided tours through my office. If you haven't seen my office, you really do need to come visit it. Those of you who were around, who got the 35-year pins and so on, would be particularly interested, because it's no different in essence from Dr. Townsend's office. I haven't added anything to it. Probably spent about $300 on furniture through these 19 years. Had one coat of paint put there, but it basically looks the same. Haven't spent much money on it. So I'm not fond of that stuff, but there's things I will miss. I will miss my reserved parking spot. I will miss guiding change for this institution. I will miss the people a lot, some of the people I work with very closely. Most of all, I will miss Tina Bennett. Tina, are you here? Please rise. Thank you. Thank you for all that you've done. Many of you don't know who Doyle Foles is, but I'll miss him as well. So there are a lot of things that I will miss. Let me wrap this up by saying I ended my inauguration address by the words, "Live long and prosper." And that was a wish for all of us. I think most people would agree with the prosper part. And I can give you the names of a couple of faculty members who would say that it's been really, really long. You know, when you say live long, is it a long time or is it a long time? And there's some people who would say that. I will say that when I came here, and again, people who are active in the community know this, when I came here, the prevailing belief was, and people told me this to my face, that I would be here for a couple of years and move to a bigger, better, and more prestigious place. And that was repeated fairly often. And there was really I'd say that there was no betting on that, because everyone knew that that's what would happen. They were sure that in a few years I'd move to a bigger, better, and more prestigious place. And about 5 years after that, I made a speech to the Board of Trustees of the University Foundation, the University of West Georgia Foundation. And I reminded them of that, because many of the people in the community, there were a few people on campus also who believed that, many of the people of the community were in that room. And I said to them, I remind you of the fact that many of you told me that in a few years I'd move to a bigger, better, and more prestigious place. I looked them in the eye and said, all of you were right. I did. And I really believe that. I have moved. I've moved every year. Every single year, I've moved to a bigger, better, and more prestigious place. You have made it so, and I am eternally in your debt. It's really been my privilege and pleasure to be president of this great institution for these past 19 years. West Georgia College, the State University of West Georgia, and the University of West Georgia. I will simply repeat what I said during my inauguration speech. I really believe this. My wish for each one of you, and my wish for the University of West Georgia is, live long and prosper. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.